due to the hard work of our students and staff. What specific proposals, academic or otherwise, do you have to support our students and staff in continued academic improvement?
Well, first off, I think that the community and parents are pretty well satisfied with the educational program here, and they should be, because the state says we're excellent with distinction. I think the first thing that we ought to do is get our attention off of levies and finances and back on education. It's the community's job to fund the schools, and they always have. They've always been there when we needed them, and there's no reason to expect anything different. All that energy that we spend on campaigning, and we need to put that back in and put it to the benefit of our educated children. And it's probably hard for people to remember the last time when we weren't worried about the next levy. It's been a long time. Now, beyond that, I think there's some areas of emphasis that we ought to pursue. One of them, given the state of politics in the national level today, I think we need to do more to teach our children about preserving liberty. You know, a famous politician once said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We don't pass it on to our children in our bloodstream, and it must be fought for, protected, and handed to them to do the same, or one day we'll spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States, where men were free." And we see our freedom being eroded, and it'll be up to this next generation to continue to preserve that. We need to increase our focus on teaching the U.S. Constitution and the freedoms it was designed to protect. We need to emphasize individual responsibility. As a society, we're becoming over-dependent to do things for us. More involvement from parents. Too many parents, I think, just kind of hand their kids over to the school district and don't participate. And I'd like to see more parental participation. And I'm going to continue like that.
Thank you. All right, we have a new question. Mr. Petroni, how will you deal with the following issue? Although the surplus of money has been totally created by teachers' willingness to take a pay freeze and have their premiums raised, this has not been clearly stated to the public, leaving morale at an all-time low with the staff.
What was it?
Can we repeat it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was trying to hope there's a
All
question.
right, no problem. It's, how will you deal with the following issue? Although the surplus of money has been totally created by teachers' willingness to take a pay freeze and have their premiums raised, this has not been clearly stated to the public, leaving morale at an all-time low with the staff.
Well, you'd like to say that's a great question. Surpluses in budgets and finance, which my background clearly is potentially one of the stronger than many of the candidates here, as it relates to addressing morale. If we get away from the teachers worried about where the money's coming from, if we refocus everything back to educating our children, if the economy clearly is a major part of all of this, which can't be ignored, we have to look at all aspects of our budgeting. And in school funding, 81 cents of every dollar is wages and benefits. And in any business today, when you have to fix problems or look at solutions, it's pretty much impossible to ignore those areas of the line item and still be able to keep your doors open and run your business. And the economic times today hopefully will change that will allow us to be able to continue the support that has gone. But when you have a surplus, I guess because as Ms. Babb mentioned, our current surplus is only about $5 million, maybe $8 million. I mean, and we added $2 million this year thanks to the stable operations that have been projected, and thanks in part to the teachers here who did offer some concessions in their contracts. But when you deal with forecasts and faulty assumptions to begin with, which I believe is what happened last year and several of these past years, I think it's difficult even as a teacher to know what can you ask for. If you elect me and Jim Regano to the board, Jim Regano and I to the board, we will assure you, I will assure you, that I will tell you what money is available to deal with the issues that you're concerned about.
Thank you. Ms. Ellis, the same question. How would you deal with the following issue? Although the surplus of money has been totally created by teachers' willingness to take a pay freeze and have their premiums raised, this has not been clearly stated to the public, leaving morale at an all-time low with the staff.
Well, I think we have to be really careful about that we to the surplus. I think we're pretty tight. We made a decision to move forward without asking for a tax increase. We didn't want the community through another levy request, so we balanced it. The district is operating on a tight budget, and I have no doubt that affects morale. The levy request was to restore services and help us manage the large growth of enrollment that already existed in our district. Our class sizes in the upper grades have not gone down, and in some buildings they are rising. The district is not currently growing in enrollment, likely due to the downturn in the economy, but we're still trying to manage the large growth we had in recent years. This year, our middle school, for example, got 128 more students than it did the year before. The teachers in that building are teaching more classes, and classes are still way too high. One reason the levy request was to better able to manage the growth. While we're in a position to restore bus service and slightly lower fees for our parents, they're still paying higher fees in area districts that have successfully passed their levy. We operate with lower numbers of administrators and teachers as a result of the inability. So morale is probably feeling it. Our teachers are paid on average much lower than similar districts around our state and around our area. In fact, our teachers are paid lower than the state of Ohio average. This means it can be challenging to compete with other districts to get the best teachers, and we generally can't afford to hire experienced teachers. Make no bones about it, the budget is balanced, but it's balanced on the backs of those of us who are vested in this district, whether you work here or you're the parent paying the fees and transporting your high school or that sort of thing. Now, what I can deliver is that I believe in teachers and educators, and that I will treat you with respect. I will treat you like the professionals that I know you are. And I will set up avenues where you can feel validated, where you can communicate your needs, and we will do the best that we possibly can because I work with you.
Thank you. Mr. Cruzy, the same question. How would you deal with the following issue? Although the surplus of money has been totally created by teachers' willingness to take a pay freeze and have their premiums raised, this has not been clearly stated to the public, leaving morale at an all-time low with the staff.
I think one of the candidates answered it in the first question. I think the big thing is communication. I think we need as a board, we need as a school system, we need as a community to be one. The community needs to know what sacrifices the teachers make, the administrators make, and the teachers need to know what sacrifices the parents are making and the students are making. So I think it's the biggest thing about communication is letting people know that we're all in it together. I mean, it's not teachers against the parents, the administration against the teachers, the board against the community. Until we get to that point, we're going to have arguments about whether we need a levy, whether we need this, whether we need that. The biggest thing about it is getting the communication across and the morale across the board. The morale from the teachers will get better, the morale in the community will get better, the morale all over Springboro will be a better place if we all communicate our needs. And I think we're all in the same boat of what we need, the best education for our kids, and I think we can make that happen.
Thank you. That same question, Mr. Craig. How would you deal with the following issue? Although the surplus of money has been totally created by teachers' willingness to take a pay freeze and have their premiums raised, this has not been clearly stated to the public, leaving morale at an all-time low with the staff.
I think from the beginning, when the levy was proposed and put out there, that there was a lack of information as to what the amount of the levy, the 25 million, was going to be needed for. And clear communication of each piece of that. That's not to say that the board didn't do, parts of those things, but we really need, and those who work for the levies also, we really need to make sure that the community understands when a board asks for a certain amount of money,
it is because they need that money, and the breakdown has to be there to show it, so that there's full disclosure of exactly why we are asking. And not to say that there hasn't been, but there has been, since the failure of the levy and since the amount of so-called surplus, which Ms. Gentry Ms. Sellis has explained, that doesn't put us out of the, I see it as a delay of what's to come. And the teachers, you should have been given, the explanation, the public should have been given the explanation as how did we come up with that amount of money, not just that suddenly there's a surplus and to imply that, there was money being hidden. I think the public is still wanting to hear exactly how that came about, and I am hoping that, the school provides that for them. They deserve the explanation. The teachers need to be given the recognition of what they did sacrifice to get there. But I feel it's a delay. It's only postponing. And
Thank you.
pay the piper sooner or later,
Thank you. The same question, Mr. Regano. How do you deal with the following issue? Although the surplus of money has been totally created by teachers' willingness to take a pay freeze and have their premiums raised, this has not been clearly stated to the public, leaving morale at an all-time low with the staff.
Yeah, well, I think the question itself reflects part of the misunderstanding about the budget situation. Mr. Petroni and I presented 12 steps to help balance the budget. And those steps are on our website, petroni-regano.com, for anybody who wants to look at it. And we presented out of those 12 steps that we presented, Mr. Lawley and Treasurer Jarvis implemented several of those. And those are responsible for help balancing the budget. The root cause is that the budget had a bunch of bad assumptions. For example, the budget assumed that for the next 5 years, we were going to have an enrollment of 200 students. And this is a 2010 budget, by the way. And clearly, the housing boom had reflected that, but the budget didn't. So we were still planning on hiring a lot of people. And that just didn't need to happen. So when that budget assumption was fixed, this part of the deficit went away. Future raises and future benefit increases were a part of reducing that budget. Also, restoring the district had made some budget cuts, but this budget assumed that we were going to put all those back in place. Superintendent Lawley and Treasurer Jarvis decided that some of those weren't necessary. That's responsible for a big portion of the budget cut. The budget also assumed we were going to need to do all-day kindergarten and reopen Jonathan Wright. Well, that didn't happen either. It's another bad budget assumption that when you take that out of the equation, there's not a big deficit anymore. So, as far as improving morale, I think the best thing that we can do as a board is to put forth a straightforward, honest, clear budget that the community understands, that the staff understands. And I think that when people understand the situation, that there's really no reason to be upset. In fact, what we've got today is a situation where services are being restored, class sizes are slightly smaller than they have been, where they needed to be, and that's a good thing for people who needed the levy. On the other hand, we have no tax increase, and that's a good thing for people who are struggling in the economy. Thank you.